Are you ready to use Pinterest to grow your e-commerce traffic and sales to your store? Well, I have got just the treat for you because today we're going to go over different Pinterest strategies with Pinterest expert Kara Chase, so stay tuned. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Elle McCann and I have been a Shopify expert for 6 years now. So I love using Pinterest for Shopify stores because it's like a visual Google. It's such a visual search engine compared to other platforms like Facebook and Instagram, where once you post your content, poof, it's gone, and you have to keep putting new content out there. Pinterest, on the other hand, is like a directory, and it's a search engine where people can find your pins of your products or information about your site and your offerings years down the road. So I have brought on today guest expert Kara Chase, who is a Pinterest just rock star, and I'm interviewing her about different strategies and tips for e-commerce store owners to grow their store with Pinterest. So I hope you like this interview, and make sure to comment below and let us know what are your biggest takeaways about using Pinterest for your Shopify store. Let's get into the interview. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you are joining us today, Kara. And I would love to first have you just introduce yourself to everyone and tell a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to chat. So I'm Kara Chase, and I own a Pinterest marketing agency where I do one-to-one service with clients, everything from their organic management to paid campaigns and advertising. But I'm the founder of Pinterest PowerUp as well. And Pinterest PowerUp is the first Pinterest marketing membership, say that 3 times fast,
Right.
That's specifically designed for online entrepreneurs to teach you everything you need to know from A to Z, way beyond how many times do you pin in a day. We really dive into Pinterest marketing strategies for your business. And it's designed to be the only place that you have to go for what's the latest and greatest and how do we need to be using Pinterest effectively for our marketing and sales funnels.
Awesome. Yeah. And I have been a member of Pinterest Power Up for a few months now, and I've been implementing all the techniques and tactics on my profile. So I really am excited to talk more about that. But Kara's actually going to be sharing with us 3 tips today, specifically for Shopify and Pinterest and how to get started.
Absolutely.
So your first tip I know was about product pins. So I've already done a video on the YouTube channel about how to set up rich pin data, which kind of enables these product pins. But can you tell us a little bit more about what product pins are and why they're so necessary and different from other pins on Pinterest?
Yeah, absolutely. So product pins, the key difference is that they are shoppable. So if you've been on Pinterest for a while, you might remember that they used to have buyable pins. They used to actually have an internal shopping cart on Pinterest where you could buy right within Pinterest without having to leave the site. But they got rid of that and simplified that a few years ago because they were only connected to a couple of e-commerce platforms. And now anybody that does e-commerce, for the most part, can hook up shoppable pins as part of their profile. And what that does is it's basically a rich pin that incorporates all of your shop inventory, stats, whatever it is about your product as part of the pin. So when you see a shoppable pin, you're going to see what the price is. It's going to automatically pull in some of that inventory data or variant data, like if it comes in different colors or, all of that kind of stuff. But the key is that you need to connect it correctly to your e-commerce platform for that information and that data to pull, which is one of the things that you explained so beautifully in the previous videos that you've done. You make it really simple, which is so nice. So product pins are different because it's not just, here's this great piece of information, or here's this how-to, or here's an idea, or here's a checklist, all the other things that we see on Pinterest. It's actually a product pin that's shoppable. You do still have to click through. They don't have that whole internal shopping mechanism anymore on Pinterest. But it makes it really easy for the Pinterest user to search for what they're looking for. There's some stat out there like 90% of searches are unbranded searches.
Oh, wow. So
Which
huge
means
opportunity then.
huge opportunities. So people are not looking for Land's End blue sweater. They're looking for blue sweater. Like the people don't put in those brand names for the searches. So having this all hooked up correctly and making sure that it's functioning correctly can, do amazing things for your Pinterest profile and getting your products found. The other thing that this umbrella kind of relates to is when you see pins where they've got the, excuse me, little circle on, like when you see a vignette of a room, Target does this really well, and some of the other big like home shopping sites, and fashion. Most of the time the circle dot thing is geared towards home and fashion. But you can like shop the look basically. So shop the look in a room, or an outfit or whatever it is. So what will happen is if you're hooked up correctly with your e-commerce platform, when you create a pin, you can, I forget what the exact terminology is, but basically you tag a product or you tag something in the pin. And that's why those little circles appear. Mm-hmm. And you put in a link that will go for a product seller directly to the product. And it will pull in images from that page that it's linking to. It's a really cool, like, additional layer to the data and the searchability of the pin.
Yeah, that's super cool.
That's a lot of information. I hope that was
well, yeah, definitely. And I think my biggest takeaway is that there is such a high opportunity, because at first, like when you were able to do buyable pins with Shopify, it was just adding in a sales channel. It was really quick. And so I feel like a lot more people did it. But now that that's kind of gone away and you have to add this additional rich pin data on your site, I feel like a lot of people don't know how to do it, don't know that it exists, that you can do it. And so probably a lot of e-commerce stores aren't even actually implementing this functionality on their site. And it's kind of, if you are, you're going to have a little bit more of an opportunity to get seen more on Pinterest.
I would absolutely 100% agree to that. And I can attest to that because I had a couple clients churn through my services when they made this big change from buyable pins and shopping on Pinterest to this, making it shoppable and not so easy, basically. Yeah. And what happened was they weren't really having to do much. I was managing their organic strategy and some paid ads, but it was easier kind of on the back end, on the business side of the house. And they were making lots and lots of money with Pinterest. But when they made the change and they had to do more that I didn't have control over, it kind of all fell by the wayside, and they never adapted to the changes for that strategy. So I can speak to that firsthand, how that affects strategy.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's you've got to stay on top of what these platforms are doing. And I know Pinterest had just kind of recently been rolling out video pins. And so it's really cool to implement these new things. And that kind of brings us to that second tip. So talking about product pins, and I know, e-commerce store providers are just thinking, okay, I want to make more money. I want to sell all my products, but you shouldn't just be doing product pins, right? You should be doing other different types.
Absolutely. So could you potentially get away with simply having product pins, nothing else on your website, and putting a ton of money into advertising? Sure. That is like a really hard way to do things. That's very expensive and very risky. So this is the perfect question because I'm actually wrapping up with a client where we worked through this whole strategy, and she was like the perfect example for this. So she bakes, whatever, really amazing single serve coconut macaroons that are dipped in chocolate. Right? And she is on Shopify, and she reached out to me. She was a referral and said, I hear you're the Pinterest person. I want to work with you. Like, what do we need to do? And when we dug into her website, her website was pretty much 95% just her store and her products. And I said, well, here's the thing. If you really want to build out Pinterest as a huge source of traffic, people aren't going to go on Pinterest and search for coconut macaroon. They might search for a recipe. They're not necessarily going to search for it as a product to just go ahead and buy. But if we come up with a content plan for your website that's going to serve your Pinterest audience for what they are looking for, that's going to help you drive traffic to your website in a more authentic, valuable way for your audience, that then the next natural step is to buy and order your product. So we came up with things like, the fact that she can hand out macaroons as holiday, Halloween, like trick or treats, because they're individually packaged. So like trick or treats. And so she has a whole blog she's writing on like the best candy, junk candy, whatever, Halloween treats for trick or treaters. We mapped out an entire year's worth of content for things like how to do a dessert and wine pairing party. And she, will incorporate her macaroons into those.
That is genius.
All of this, gift baskets, that kind of thing. Gift baskets are huge on Pinterest. People wanting to put them together for the holidays, for school fundraisers, for teacher gifts, all that kind of stuff. And then the other thing, so this is where being aware of your audience is really important, that I wouldn't have realized. Because they're individually packaged, she has a big market for travel. And so we've, framed out a few pieces of content on traveling with kids or road trips or plane, all this kind of stuff, because those are the kind of inspirational ideas that people look for on Pinterest that are going to naturally lead to her website and selling her product. So that was kind of a in detail explanation of you could, but you shouldn't. You could have only products on your site, but it's not going to serve your Pinterest audience in the best way. So is it a lot of effort to come up with some sort of content plan where you're really thinking about what is my audience on Pinterest searching for before they realize they need to buy from me? Yeah. It's a lot of work, but
it'll pay off.
But it will pay off. Simple things like, we started this in the summer, and one of the topics I came up with was like a no bake dinner menu. You don't have to make these yourself. You can just have them, or potlucks, or right now it's tailgating, anything that you could make your product make sense for. That's going to go much, much farther on Pinterest than just putting up product pins.
Well, and I love this because it goes to a few different things that I've always been talking about on my YouTube channel, which is you've got to know who your ideal customer is, and you can't just be like, buy from me 24/7. Like, no one's going to like that. It's just going to get annoying really fast. So you need to be like bringing people into your brand. And it's a great way to have complementary content, as well as, even turning some of those into lead magnets and getting people to subscribe to your newsletter to get additional content. And again, you're just building up that subscriber base, and you're not just saying, okay, here's this, buy. Right. I think so many times when people think of like other content that they could do that's complementary for their products, like in your example that you just gave, people would think, oh, well, it's macaroons. I don't want to give away the recipe, so I can't, do a blog or anything like that. And you don't have to give away the recipe. Like you can just incorporate it into so many different things. So I definitely think, kind of like you were saying, creating a content calendar and creating all these different pins that are complementary. Yeah, it's going to take additional time. But the beauty of Pinterest is that these pins can live on forever. And so, you create, that it takes time up front, but then it can just keep going year after year. Every Halloween, you can see that resurgence of that pin again and things like that, which is why Pinterest, I think, is so much better than other search engines or other social media platforms, because it's not just one and done. It's just continually going and being used.
Yes, exactly. I've talked about this before. One of my most viral pins, and the blog that still continues to this day to get, it always ranks in the top 5 for my traffic for the month, is from a blog I wrote in 2015.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's just
So,
amazing. Yeah.
This is why I love Pinterest. This was like, something I don't have to keep recreating the wheel and whatever, just keep refreshing and repurposing instead of recreating something new.
That is so smart. Where if it was like Facebook or Instagram, you've got to post like daily or you're just, obsolete there. But oh man, I love it. Okay. So the third tip is about different common mistakes that you see product sellers make. So I think one of them was already one that we hit on of don't just do product pins and don't make it all about just your products and selling. But what other things have you seen people make on the e-commerce store and kind of ways to avoid that?
Yeah, this is probably going to be the longest section of our conversation because I have a lot of oh my gosh, okay, and this is what to do.
So if you're
instead.
not taking notes to this video yet, pause it, bring out your notes.
Pause, get your notepad. Okay, so this one is big. For product sellers, particularly in home, fashion, but it can apply to everyone. Lots of brands come up with very unique names for colors and their products. And the name of whatever product it is, they have this whole all of our products are named a girl's name, or all of our products are named a location, or all of our, whatever. The problem is nobody is going to search for Greek Isles azure blue sweater.
Yeah, that is so true.
So that doesn't mean that you still can't have that as part of your branding if it's important to you and part of your brand story and all of that. But when it comes to Pinterest, you have to remember it functions on keywords. The very, very most I would do in particular to colors is saying light blue or dark blue.
Okay.
Right? But
That's
anything, any other super cool name for blue or your own made up name for blue, anything like that, it is not going to do you any favors. Especially if you don't at least have the word blue in there somewhere. So the whole, this is our brand and this is how we name everything. And this is, that's great. Save that for your website.
Yeah.
On Pinterest, you need to make sure that you're using common searchable terms. So that's a big one.
I've definitely been guilty of that one. I'm going to have to go and make some changes.
Right? I think there's probably a lot of people that were like, I'm going to have to work on some things here.
Yeah.
It's really common. People just don't think about it. So the next thing that I would say is product manufacturers making the mistake of thinking Pinterest is just a portfolio for their stuff. Mm. So I have come across profiles or been asked to review profiles where they have 10 Pinterest boards and they're all the same pins of the same products on every board.
Oh gosh.
And it's this is not a catalog. So that would be another way to say it. Don't use it as a portfolio or a catalog. It's not. That's what your website is for.
Yeah.
So sometimes people have a hard time with why would I pin other people's stuff? Or why would I pin a competitor's stuff? Or why would, all that kind of stuff. So my answer to that is your goal on Pinterest is to be seen as a curator of the most valuable information or products for your audience.
Ooh, I love that.
Thanks. I've been saying that.
Curator, yeah, it makes sense then. You don't have to know everything and be everything. You're a curator. You don't have to. Do you
remember kind of in the heyday of when people really started getting into social media strategy? And I think it was Guy Kawasaki was the guy you wanted to follow on Twitter to know the best stuff that was happening around the web. I don't know if you were aware of that at the time or not. This was 2015, 2016. And he would post the best memes and the best articles and the best, like, it was almost like he was his own personal newsfeed.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
kind of what you want to accomplish with your followers on Pinterest.
Gotcha.
So even though his wheelhouse was kind of social media and business, you better believe he was linking to other people's articles and other people's stuff and whatever, because you can't possibly write about or do or make all the things.
Yeah.
So, for example, I had a client at one point that did modern office furniture, and they were the classic, like, their entire Pinterest was just improperly sized catalog photos of their furniture. And it was like, this is like making me hurt on the inside. And so when I built everything out for their profile, it was like, well, somebody that's looking for modern office furniture is also going to be interested in modern architecture,
Yeah.
maybe, artwork. Maybe they're super into, people that are into modern decor and design really have a thing for lighting.
Oh,
That kind of stuff that's like, well, maybe this board isn't where you would pin all of your products, or it's going to be mostly other things, but it's still what your followers are looking for.
yeah.
Go back to this whole, they're going for ideas and inspiration. So when you think of your industry, your product, your audience, think of your boards as a Venn diagram of everything your audience could be interested in, what makes sense. For me, for example, I focus on Pinterest marketing and management, but I have boards on blogging, Squarespace design, email marketing, free resources for entrepreneurs, my reading list, like my business books list, all that kind of stuff, because it's very likely that an online entrepreneur who is looking at my stuff for ideas, how-tos, and learning is also going to be looking for things involving those subject areas as well.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's kind of like this video call now. Like, I know Shopify, you know Pinterest. I couldn't do a whole presentation over Pinterest. I don't know. That's why I joined Pinterest Power Up. So to get your expertise. So it's kind of like, it wouldn't make sense for me to create all this Pinterest content of strategies on my own. I would just pin your content to my board and things like that.
Exactly. And, do I pin other people's, you could call them competitors, stuff about Pinterest? If it's good and I know the person and I trust my audience with them, absolutely, because I cannot possibly write everything there could ever be to write about Pinterest, right? So if it's like, I'm never going to get around to doing that, or I know this person and I know they write about quality stuff, then absolutely. There's more than enough to go around. So instead of thinking of Pinterest as a portfolio or a catalog for your products, think about yourself as a curator of the best things your audience could be interested in. It's kind of like a really cool boutique, local boutique, right?
Yeah.
If you're the store owner, you've got your ideal customer in mind and you're curating the best stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
So, okay, next mistake would be the whole bit about images on Pinterest. So where I see a lot of e-commerce mistakes are when people automatically repin the stock photo. And I don't mean like stock photography, I mean inventory photo on a white background of their product. There is no life to it. There is no inspiration to it. Most of the time they're not the right size, like they're square or their landscape or whatever. It's not the vertical best practice image for Pinterest. So we know from lots and lots and lots of data and number crunching by all the experts and Pinterest and everyone else that photos of people using your product do way, 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 way better. It goes back to that people are looking for ideas and information, inspiration, and you want them to imagine using your product, wearing your product, eating your whatever it is.
Yeah.
So those lifestyle type photos do way better than the white background inventory or stock photo. Yeah. It's kind of the same principle as why real estate agents will stage a house for open houses.
Thinking that, yeah. Because if you walk into an empty house, you're like, I don't even know what I would do. But if it's already staged, you can instantly envision things. So like, for example, like the posters behind you, like just on a blank backdrop, it may be like, well, I don't even know, but seeing it in a frame and seeing it styled next to other things, you can kind of think, oh, I could do this in my space. It makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. And now that we have video pins, holy cow, the engagement for having a simple video of someone using your product or wearing your product, it could be 10 seconds, 15 seconds. If you sell planners, somebody writing in the planner. If you sell sweaters, somebody styling it a couple different ways, doing a fun little video that's like a quick, whatever. It's so easy to do with all the tools we have nowadays. And just that simple difference of taking it beyond even lifestyle photography into motion and live almost, someone using your product is so cool.
Now it doesn't have to be like a 2-3 minute long video. Like you said, it could just be 10 seconds, 15 seconds of just a quick little snippet, because people probably aren't going to be likely to sit there and watch a 5-minute long video or however long it is.
No, correct is what I meant. So it can be as short as 5 seconds. I don't remember what the top end is, but I would aim for no more than a minute. Pins that I see do really well are the ones that are almost that mesmerizing. When people started doing the recipe, like cooking videos, and it would show, and it was like, it just sucks you in.
Yeah.
Those kinds of videos do really well on Pinterest because on mobile, they autoplay. They're a scroll stopper.
That's huge. Yeah.
They're a scroll stopper. So a really cool thing I did, I actually need to send you this link, is I did a quick Photoshop tutorial on how to plug, if you already have like a square or a landscape video that you have done for another platform, other content marketing, and the idea of creating video that's vertical for Pinterest is like, I can't figure this out or do one more thing. I show you how to quickly create a stacked video pin, which is half of it is a video, and then you've got your text overlay and what you're going to and whatever. And then the bottom half is a static image.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
And it's Photoshop, so you don't need like the big Adobe editing video software and all that kind of stuff. You can literally open up Photoshop and it takes 5 minutes if you already have your video. And then you've got your video pin that's correctly sized, all ready to go, and you didn't have to mess with creating new video or new content. So I see this happen a lot, particularly with recipe pins, where the bottom is the static image, which is like the finished recipe, and then the top is a snippet of like the recipe being made.
Process. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we'll definitely put a link in the description below to Kira's video tutorial on that one, or tutorial that shows you how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last big mistake that I see people making, and I know that you and I have talked about this one before, particularly for product sellers, is not having a custom 404 page.
Yes.
Because when you sell a product, you will sell out, you will discontinue, you will, like, some of them are seasonal, whatever it is. And the nature of Pinterest is that pins last forever. So you never know when someone is going to come across your pin. And if it's sold out, the last thing you want is somebody coming to your site and bouncing right off because they hit an error or, just a regular old dumpy 404 page that just doesn't help them at all. Yeah. So setting up a custom 404 page for products would look something like if they came for anything in your sweaters collection and it, was out of stock or sold out or discontinued, that custom 404 page for the sweater collection would be like, hey, sorry you missed this, but here's our newest sweaters. Or here's our, you send them to another page, you have a gallery, you make it really easy for them to take the next logical step for something else that they could buy. You're still going to have a higher bounce rate with products that are discontinued or sold out or whatever. We've all had the experience of seeing something on Pinterest that you click through and it's like, well, that was sold out in, 2 years ago or whatever it was. So by having a custom 404 page where you can redirect that traffic from products that are no longer available, you have a much higher chance of keeping people on your site and converting them.
That's awesome. Well, and even yes, definitely a custom 404 page, but just making sure if you hide a collection or product that you're redirecting that link. Like you don't want someone to just end up on, clicking on a product and just being like, well, I don't even know what I clicked on. Cause I know I can sometimes go on like a Pinterest binge and just start right clicking to open things in a new tab. And then I get to it and nothing's there. And I'm like, what even was this? Whatever. And I don't even stay on their site. So definitely that's a huge must to make sure, especially as seasons change, promotions change, you may have just changed the name. That's huge for sure.
Yeah. So I actually have a Word doc on my Google Drive where I keep track of all of my URL mappings on the back end of my site. So I know what's redirected, what used to be old pages, whatever it is. For me, it's content. It's not products. Yeah. But it's really helpful to have like a one sheet of these are all the redirects and the URL mappings on my website. So setting up that custom 404, even if it's not specific to collections for Shopify or whatever e-commerce you're on, even if it's just your standard 404 page, make it custom to here's our new release or here's our best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it for that. That definitely gives people some things to do.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to have to go back and change some names around for some of my colors. I was definitely guilty of that one. And actually, so we've mentioned Pinterest Power Up. And as I said, I've been a part of that program for a couple months now. But whenever I first came to Kara, I had so much Pinterest shame because I definitely had a profile that was just my own stuff. Like I wasn't, repurposing other things. I wasn't thinking about how to extend my content. And it was just all of my own, videos and tutorials and things like that or products. And so I really loved going through Pinterest Power Up and figuring out how do I actually set up my boards correctly and how many pins should I put on each board and things like that. It was really helpful to really up my Pinterest game. So I would love for you to tell people a little bit more about kind of the power of Pinterest Power Up and how you can kind of take over some of that overwhelm, because I know at first for me too, and we talked about this, I felt like, okay, now that I know everything, I have to do everything right away. And I love that Pinterest Power Up is like, you do this day 0 to 30, this is day 31 to 60. And it was like, okay, I can manage this.
Yes. So everyone that joins Pinterest Power Up, which is a membership, not an online course, you start with the Pinterest Success Roadmap. And that literally takes you from creating a business account profile all the way through your very first promoted pin campaign. Like low cost, let's get our feet wet, spend $20 just figuring out how promoted pins kind of work in our setup. So it is designed to be step by step to build that foundation before you start getting into higher level strategies and funnels and marketing. So there is something that happens to all of us as business owners when we start using something for marketing. We forget what it's like to be a user.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah. So true.
So we all do this. We start talking funny and weird and we're so focused on how am I going to get an ROI for this and how, what are my marketing efforts, and we stop using it like a user would use it to find your stuff. So we talk about that a lot in Pinterest Power Up. And I'm not one of those like drip feed course membership people. So it's been open for almost a year, and everyone gets access instantly to the full training library. So yes, you are supposed to start off with a Pinterest success roadmap, but a lot of those things you can check off right away. Like, yes, I've confirmed my website, and yes, I've set up rich pins, and all that kind of stuff. So once you have all of those foundational best practices done, we have so many other complementary trainings around using Pinterest. So we go into analytics, Pinterest, Google, Tailwind analytics to inform your strategy. We go into graphic design. We go into opt-ins and email marketing. Last month I did kind of 2 months all about e-commerce, affiliate marketing, really that more shopping product side to Pinterest. So I'm essentially doing the same thing with Pinterest Power Up that you would do with your Pinterest profile. I'm pulling in all these complementary things that have to do with running a Pinterest marketing strategy successfully. So everyone that joins, there's 2 different levels. Everyone that joins get access to all of the training. And you also get a 15-minute onboarding call with me where we can say, okay, where are you at? What are your goals? Here's what you really need to be diving into, and pick and choose these trainings that are going to meet you where you're at right now and what your immediate goals are for your Pinterest strategy. And of course, we have community feedback and support. And then we have a VIP level. And essentially, the VIP level is a small group mastermind. So every month we get on an 1.5-hour Zoom call where we work through strategies. We talk more in depth about the latest training. Everybody brings their questions, and we just powwow and do this really cool group mastermind session every month. And VIPs get extra stuff, like they get affiliate access, discount on my one-to-one services, all of that good stuff. So again, it's really designed to be the only place you have to go to know that you're doing the right thing for Pinterest, whatever that strategy is, and that you've got all these other pieces pulled in that are going to make this puzzle work. It's so much more than how do you pin on Tailwind or how do you set up your Tailwind queue. If that's the only thing you do with Pinterest for your strategy, there's so much more to the puzzle.
You're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Right, exactly. So, and you won't find courses out there that are going to pull in all of these things. I think a lot of times as online entrepreneurs, when we take a course, we try and learn something new, we're kind of left with this feeling of, I don't have the whole story. I don't have the big picture. I feel like I'm missing some things here. And that's why I created it as a membership, so that we can know we're always updated. It's not Pinterest strategies from 2017. And we're pulling in all of these things that relate to our businesses.
Yeah.
Starting with Pinterest as your main marketing funnel.
Well, and I loved it because it kind of took my mindset from, oh, okay, I need to just put up some pins on Pinterest and that's just another social media platform on the list, to, wow, I can totally make a unique strategy for my goals of, I'm very big into YouTube. And so how do I use Pinterest to complement my YouTube strategy as well and make them work together? And it's not just this one little, okay, I'm going to pin this real quick, but it's just really a reframe of your mindset of using Pinterest and to make it a full-on strategy. And I think that's what I got such a big takeaway from these VIP calls. So I did the VIP membership, and I loved that I was able to come and ask questions and pick your brain, which again, Kara is just a rock star Pinterest expert. So being able to pick your brain on it was just super valuable, and was just great to help me kind of go through this process and kind of really prioritize what needs to be done in what order as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the group mastermind calls are my favorite thing to do because I love brainstorming. I love, like my client with the macaroons, coming up with that whole content plan around how do we make your website so much more interesting and valuable than just your products. That was fun. Like I love doing that kind of stuff. So those group mastermind calls are a chance for us to have a little one-on-one time in a small group setting.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, if you are interested in doing Pinterest Power Up or just using Pinterest as a new strategy for your e-commerce store, I highly recommend it. And I'm going to put a link below in the description where you can go to Pinterest Power Up site and check out all of the options that we talked about today and the two different membership options for monthly. But again, I highly recommend checking it out. Pinterest is definitely, I feel like Pinterest and Shopify or Pinterest and any kind of e-commerce platform, they're just like meant to be together.
Right?
So just do yourself a favor and make sure that you are using this platform. I feel like so many people talk about Facebook or Instagram, and Pinterest is kind of the one that's like pushed to the corner that no one talks about, but is secretly actually the best one because content lives there forever. And I don't know why no one's talking about it.
You know, it's kind of, it blows my mind too, but it's also fun for me when I start talking to people about Pinterest and I see their eyes get really big and I see the light bulbs start going off when I start telling them what it can do and how it functions. I love enlightening people like that about Pinterest.
Well, and
So,
again, I think the opportunity is a lot higher on Pinterest because people just aren't using, either they're not using it correctly or they're just not using it. Or a lot of people aren't doing, advertising on Pinterest. So the cost on that one are a little bit lower than
so
Facebook and
good.
Instagram. So there's definitely a huge benefit of checking out Pinterest and bringing that into your overall marketing strategy for sure.
For sure. Yes.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kara, for joining us on this video today. I am so glad that you were able to join me, and I'm going to have all of her information again in the description below. And I'm going to also post her Pinterest profile so you can make sure to check out everything that she's got going on there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this video interview really helpful. So again, comment below and let us know what were your biggest takeaways of using Pinterest for your Shopify store. Also, if you're interested in learning more about how to set up your Pinterest boards, how to pin different things, create high-performing pins, and so many other Pinterest strategies, make sure to check out Kara's Pinterest Power Up to learn more about Pinterest overall and how you can make it work for your business. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.